There's been some discussion on the internet recently about whether or not the rasa or Svarupa or Siddhadeha of all of us jivas is inherent, it's fixed, or is it determined? Is the type of relationship we have with Krishna determined by the type of association we have? So this is the book that I'm going to be quoting from and reading from. It's an anthology of all of our acharyas from the most recent to the most past. That is from Srila Gurudev and Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj to Prabhupada, to all of his contemporaries like Srila Sridhar Maharaj, Srila Puri Maharaj, up to, of course, Param Gurudev, to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, to Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, to Baladev Vijayabhusam Prabhu, to Jiva Goswami, and the other 6 Goswamis, to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and back to Lord Brahma, our original guru. So I'm going to read the 10-point summary of this book, which actually your own Jashodanandan Prabhu helped with. The eternal spiritual body, also known as Svarupa, Swa means own, and Rup means form, or Siddhadeha. Siddha means perfect, and Deha means body, of the living entity, is inherent in his constitution. So we'll be discussing during this meeting what each word means. Because if we all have different ideas of what is constitution, what is inherent, then we may argue a point that doesn't need to be argued. Or we may agree on something that doesn't need to be agreed on. In other words, it is his constitutional form. Our constitutional form is our Svarupa. Our constitutional form is our rasa. It is our Siddhadeha. That's number 1. Number 2, a unique relationship, rasa, with Krishna. In other words, a particular spiritual name, mood, form, qualities, and devotional activities necessary for divine service to Radha and Krishna is intrinsic in each jiva's Svarupa. So the Svarupa is the constitutional or perfectional form. It's non-different from the spiritual body. And our relationship, or rasa, means everything about us: name, form, paraphernalia, dress, how our braids are, where we live, who our in-laws are. Everything is intrinsic to our, so we're going to learn what is the meaning of intrinsic. Intrinsic to our Svarupa. Then, intrinsic in our Svarupa. Number 3, because the conditioned soul is influenced by ignorance or illusion, his Svarupa is unknown to him. It's not that we forgot Krishna, that we want, when we say forget, when we say remember, Gurudev said, we just use these words because there's no other words. We're using mundane language to describe a transcendental phenomena, and thus it'll never be perfect. So when we say we forgot our relationship with Krishna, it really means it was never known to us, but it is intrinsic in our constitutional form. Our constitutional form means our perfectional form, our siddha deha. All right, so because the conditioned soul is influenced by ignorance or illusion, his Svarupa is unknown to him. But the potential for realizing his Svarupa is present within him. That means that at the time of, you could say, creation, again, using mundane language, there's nothing perfect. But at the time of creation, Krishna put in each one of us, at the time of manufacturing, a potential for a specific relationship. That's already present within us. Our siddha deha, our perfectional constitutional form, is not already present within the conditioned jiva. But the potential for realizing that form is present within us. Even though, is that your hand raised?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is it okay to ask questions now or later?
Most definitely.
For me, potential sounds a little bit ambiguous because at school I had a lot of potential, but I didn't actually get there. So I'm just wondering if that is also an ambiguous statement.
Okay. I'm going to jump in order to answer that question. Right after the 10-point summary is a section called Helpful Definitions. So we're going to talk about potency in order to answer that. Yeah, I don't suppose you have that book with you.
We can get it. Jump and get it.
I'm reading from page Roman numeral 7. This is all the introduction. With reference to the Jiva's Svarupa, this is the definition of dormant or latent. Dormant means present in potency. So the potential of a quality within that's present in potency or seed. Here, potential means seed. So whereas you could not meet your potential in school, if the seed is there, that seed, when properly watered and given proper air, is going to turn into a certain kind of tree. It can't turn into any other tree. Potential means potency, present in potency. Another word for that is in seed, because the seed has the potency for the tree, but a mango seed only has the potency for a mango tree. It doesn't have the potency for an apple tree. So the potential of a quality or state existing but not yet developed or manifest. When our acharyas sometimes say that the conditioned soul, spiritual body is hidden, sometimes Prabhupada says it's like our spiritual body is coated with a clay body, a material body, but there's a spiritual body underneath it, that it's hidden or concealed. It doesn't mean that it's literally present under the material body, like a shirt is literally present under a jacket. Rather, it is that one's spiritual body is present already in the jiva's constitution. Constitution means our perfectional form, like the tree. the fully blossomed tree would be the Siddhadeha, or the constitutional form of us. So, it's not that it's literally present under the material body. Rather, it is that one's spiritual body is already present in its constitutional form. I'm going to jump a little bit. There's one chapter here. I'm still on your question, Kamala, about potential. There's one chapter here called the 2 time factors. So there's 2 time factors mentioned in Jiva Dharma. One is eternal time, metatemporal time, ever existing present. That's one time. There's another time factor that's temporal, that's linear, that involves past, present, and future. So in linear time, our constitutional form is not manifest because we have to wait for the descent of Svarupa Shakti, Krishna's spiritual potency of Sandini, Samvit, and Hladini, or eternity, bliss, and knowledge, descending from the heart of any of the associates of Radha and Krishna, who are oceans of the mood that is potential within us. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah.
So, in eternal time, that constitutional form is already there. Everything depends upon our understanding that there's 2 time factors. Eternal time. For example, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, I know everything as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I know everything that has happened in the past. I know everything that is happening in the present. And I know all things yet to come. I also know all living beings, but no one knows me. So I know all things yet to come means if he knows what's going to come, it means it's already there in that time factor. Does that make sense? No. I know what's going to happen tomorrow. That means what's going to happen tomorrow is already decided.
Right.
I know it's going to happen. It's already determined, and I know what's going to be.
I think I'm stuck in my mind because am I here or am I there? Like am I already there? Where am I?
That's an adorable question. All right, so in eternal time, you are there. In linear time, you are here. Without much, let's take a worm or a fly. In linear time, he's in complete oblivion, total unawareness of his relationship with Krishna. In eternal time, he has a constitutional form which has a Siddhadeha intrinsic to it. What does intrinsic mean? It means that's what it's made of. Okay, let's go back to intrinsic for a second. Intrinsic. Inherent, intrinsic, innate. If this is new to everyone, that's why it's a little bewildering. Because we're not used to precision in this kind of conversation. Inherent we're now on page 7, it's still on page 7, Roman numeral. Inherent refers to that which makes something what it is. Wetness is inherent liquidity is inherent in water. That's what makes it what it is. That which exists in something as a permanent, essential, or characteristic attribute. The Svarupa, or what is the Svarupa? It's the Siddha Deha. It's the constitutional form of us, is inherent in our constitution or our perfectional state. A pure devotee looking at us can see now our perfectional state. That's why when we get Diksha, Gurudev can say, think of yourself as a maidservant of Radharani. That Krishna is the beloved of Radharani, and he's the beloved of you because he's the beloved of your mistress, Radharani. I think many of you have heard that at the time of initiation, right? Plus, our Gurudev is cultivating that relationship in us, right? I mean, there's a million times that he said, our objective, our goal is Radha Dasyam. Unless we have a goal, we can't have a means to get there. And the goal is Radha Dasyam. So, our perfectional state is there in eternal time. So when if Narada would see us, he would see who we are. He would see the tree. Well, here, just let's take this example. An expert gardener can look at a seed, a pine needle seed, an apple seed, a mango seed, and he can see the tree latent within that seed. He'll know what kind of tree it's going to be, how many that it's going to have so many flowers, like that. Does that make sense so far? Yeah. So you're here and there in a sense.
But what are we doing then?
The real you is there, but we don't experience our real self. We will experience our real self when Svarupa Shakti descends from the heart of the Lord's associate, like Sri Guru, when we come to Bhava Bhakti. Bhava Bhakti is the time when bhavs come, isn't it? Yeah. When spiritual emotions come. Spiritual emotions are coming because we're experiencing, at least internally, our spiritual form, right? Yeah. I'm going to jump now to chapter 7, okay, which is called 2 time factors. In eternal time, there's no beginning or end. Everything in this time factor is ever fresh and ever new. In the world outside matter, our relationship with Krishna is fixed. On the other hand, the experience in material time is that nothing is fixed. Everything has a beginning and an end and is constantly changing. Yeah. What exists this minute will not exist in the next minute. In material time, the soul wanders in abject ignorance throughout the 8,400,000 species. He also changes bodies at every moment. I'm on page 89 now. At every moment, within each and every body he wanders through. That is, even right now, I'm changing bodies in every second. I don't have the same body that I had 3 minutes ago. And that's why, because we change bodies, that's why we forget. The seed of the Bhakti Lata Bij is given by Guru. It's not the same seed that's given by Krishna at the time of our manufacturing. It's not a physical seed. The seed that's given by Krishna at the time of manufacturing, I'm saying that in humor. Yeah. means a taste or a potency for a specific relationship. Then the seed that Guru gives is also not a physical seed. That the seed that Guru gives means the seed of the Bhakti Lata creeper, when Bhakti is starting to awaken in us in linear time. Also, he explained...
Sorry, can you just repeat that last sentence? That's quite far out.
The seed means the seed of the Bhakti Lata creeper. You know, the creeper is growing.
Yeah.
And the seed means, the Bhakti Lata seed means the tendency. He gives us the beginning of the tendency to serve Krishna.
But that's a bit ambiguous again for me.
The tendency means we're turning towards Krishna. We start to turn towards Krishna by sadhu sangha, by meeting a guru. Right. Before that, we don't have the tendency. We have the potency, but that's dormant. The tendency means we start being conscious of it.
Okay.
So that's the Bhakti Lata Bij, when we start being conscious of it. Because we're talking in mundane language, there's so much defect in mundane language. Gurudev said, even if I say that Krishna's face is as beautiful as the moon, there's so much difference between Krishna's face and the moon. He said, if I say that Krishna performed his pastimes 5,000 years ago in this world, that doesn't mean that he wasn't performing his pastimes before that or after that. So, because mundane language is defective, number one, it needs mercy to understand, and number two, it needs a lot of explanation for each word. Awareness, so this is linear time. Awareness of the Lord and his own soul is absent. He's lost with no bhakti. So now I'm going to give you a couple of verses from Gurudev and Prabhupada and our other acharyas talking about both of those time factors. Here's one about both time factors. And when, this is a lecture in Australia in 2002. And when, by the association of a Bhakta Bhagavata, that means linear time, right? When, by the association, right?
Yeah.
That's when that time comes.
Yeah.
And according to your constitutional rati, that's eternal time. According to your constitutional rati, which exists in eternal time, and which is now in a latent position in our hearts. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When they both mix, when what mixes? The association of the Bhakta Bhagavat, according to our constitutional rati, which is now in latent position, when these two mix, the association and the latent constitutional rati, when they mix, then rati will gradually develop and a sentiment will peep from inside saying, I like this particular relationship with Krishna. Now, here's an example of eternal time, which Lord Brahma says. The living entities are eternal, and they have an eternal relationship with Bhagavan that extends throughout time with neither beginning nor end. By constitution, they are intrinsically his superior potency. Here's a quote about eternal time from Jiva Goswami. Material time does not exist outside the material world. Outside the material world, time is manifest as an eternal present. Is that becoming a little more clear?
Yeah.
All right.
Just one thing actually. Just wondered what who is it that says I like this particular relationship with Krishna?
It's you when rati develops. Wow, I like this particular relationship. I'm tasting it.
Right. That's the soul.
I'm experiencing it. I like it. Yeah, my soul.
Okay.
My soul in linear time that's come now to Bhav, and then it connects with eternal time.
Yeah.
Linear time is only in relation to the body and mind and my mental and material conceptions. Okay, so all that was an answer to your question about what does potential mean. And I'm going back to that. So when Prabhupada writes or says that there's a spiritual body underneath this material body, just like a coat or a shirt covers the body, so the body covers the soul, like we say on book distribution. So in addition, they mean to say that while one is conditioned, the spiritual body is present, but in potency. As a seed contains the potency of an entire tree and remains dormant or hidden until circumstances are suitable for the tree's development or manifestation. Thus, dormant or latent indicates potentiality, a reality separated by time. Does that make sense so far? We can only imagine what it means with our material intelligence.
Yeah.
But that's better than nothing. Okay, so going back to constitution or constitutional position or constitutional form. In this connection, constitutional or constitution refers to the eternal reality of the soul as a pure servant of Krishna, fully free from all other desires than to serve him. When one is situated in Uttama Bhakti, then not in the beginning stages of Uttama Bhakti, but as an eternal associate of the Lord, that is my constitutional form. That is my Svarupa. It is the perfected soul's composition or makeup. Prabhupada explains the meaning of constitution in a Srimad Bhagavatam first canto purport. He says, the Shruti mantras indicate that every living being has its constitutional position, which is endowed with a particular type of rasa to be exchanged with the personality of Godhead. In the liberated condition only, this primary ras is experienced in full. Do you all know that verse that Lord Chaitanya told to Sanatana Goswami when he asked, who am I? And why do the threefold miseries always overwhelm me? Jiva Svarupa hoy, Krishnera Nityadas. So Jiva Svarup means our Svarup or constitutional position is as eternal Krishna Das in a particular relationship. Because Das has variety. Like Mother Yasoda is a Das. And Subal Saka is Das. Radharani is das. But they're different intensities of das, depending on the degree of possessiveness. That is, Mother Yashoda has more mamata, or more possessiveness, than Subal. So she'll be concerned that Krishna has the right kind of water, that his water has to be warm to bathe in, for example. Let me go back to the summary points. So number 7 is that there are 2 time factors. From the perspective of material time, bhakti begins when one connects with a pure guru. The teaching of each of our acharyas includes both perspectives. Does that make sense? Like sometimes our acharya will speak about just linear time. Sometimes he'll speak about just eternal time. And sometimes he'll speak about both in the same sentence as we read. Like, for example, when by the association of the Bhakta Bhagavad and according to your constitutional rati, which is now in latent position, when both of these mix, then rati gradually develops. Does that make sense? So there Gurudev is talking about both time factors. In Jiva Dharma, he explains that further. The time and space that you experience in this material world are completely different from the time and space in the spiritual world. Material time is divided into 3 aspects: past, present, and future. In the spiritual world, there's only one divided, undivided, eternal present. Every event of the spiritual world is eternally present, but it's always unfolding as fresh and new. So when Radharani sees Krishna in the morning, even though she spent the night with him, she'll think, who is that amazing personality? Is he a personified sapphire? Is he a fresh rain cloud? I've never seen such a person before. So it's always fresh and new, even though it's eternally present. That's the nature of it. So it's never boring. So here's an example of linear time. I think you all know the verse, Ado Shraddha Tato Sadhu Sangha, right? By Rupa Goswami. He's giving the stages leading to the appearance of prema from the linear point of view. Number 1, by hearing from Shastras, transcendental Shraddha appears. The word Shraddha implies firm belief in the meaning of Bhakti Shastras, like Bhagavad Gita and so on. Upon the appearance of such Shraddha, one again obtains Sadhu Sangha, and in such company, he begins to receive instructions regarding the methods of executing bhajan. Thereafter, he takes up bhajan. Then anarthas get eliminated. And then nistha comes, and then ruchi comes. So that's an example of linear time. On one hand, Jiva Dharma states that rati, or bhava bhakti, comes or is born from the association of pure devotees. But it never states that the type of rati is manifest from that. Just that rati is manifest. Because, as Gurudev said, it's in accordance with our constitutional rati. Okay, so here's examples of verses that include both time factors. This is Bhaktivinoda Thakur in one of the kirtans. You know, Anadi Karma Pale, you sing that a lot. I have fallen into the ocean of material existence as a result of my selfish activities, which are without beginning. And I see no means of deliverance from this great ocean of nescience. Day and night my heart burns. from the poison of these worldly activities. And on account of this, my mind never finds any satisfaction or happiness. So I'm skipping some of the verses. Accept this fallen servant and fix me as a particle of dust on your lotus feet. Kindly give shelter to this Bhakti Vinod. O most merciful Lord, actually I am your eternal servant, but I have forgotten this, and I have become bound by the network of Maya. Any questions?
Lolita wants to know, she says that this sounds to her like linear time.
Yes, it is mostly linear time. Only when he says, accept me as your servant. I am your servant, eternal servant. That is eternal time. But I have forgotten this. Means I was totally oblivious to it. And now I want to come to myself, realize myself as your servant. So it is mostly linear time. Here's a statement by Srila Bhakti Vallabhtirtha Maharaj. Shuddha Bhakti is not to be borrowed from somebody. It is inherent in every jiva. Meaning, so again, we want to understand the meaning. It means it's inherent in the jiva's constitution. It is to be manifested by the company of a bona fide Shuddha Bhakta. Association of a Shuddha Bhakta, therefore, is essential. From a distant place, also, we can have association of sadhus by sincerely following their heart. Remaining outwardly in contact with a sadhu is not association. As, for example, bugs remain in the beds of sadhus and lice on the heads of sadhus, but they're not associating, they're exploiting the sadhus. So if we know the definitions of everything, all these terms, then we won't be bewildered by apparent contradictions. Either apparent contradictions in one acharya's statements or apparent contradictions within various acharyas. Okay, here's an interesting thing. The question was asked, if one is a Ram Das, a Das of Ram by constitution, if we preach to him about Chaitanya's teachings, he won't change his Svarupa. Is that right? So Srila Bharati Maharaj answered, both. It can change and it may not change. What does that mean? There's a footnote to that, which is Srila Gurudev's saying the same thing, and that makes it more clear. I know it's a tedious subject, so maybe we'll fall asleep when we hear it. But if we get it, then everything becomes clear to us in our readings. So many devotees serve the Lord like a friend and changed to Madhurya Bhakti. They changed. So many examples are there. Shyamananda Prabhu changed. Yeah. So if we know the story of Shyamananda, it means that his constitutional Svarupa was in Madhurya Rati, but his Diksha Guru was in Sakyaras, so he had a affection for that, but that was just his body and mind until he came to Jiva Goswami and was able to awaken his constitutional rati. Does that make sense? So in that way, it can change externally, but not in reality. So then Srila Bharati Maharaj continues. So it is dependent on the sincerity. And if you like to serve in Madhurya Bhakti, you can serve. But your interest in Madhurya Bhakti will manifest when you have connection with a Madhurya Bhakta. As Shyamananda was inclined to Sakyaras and then quote-unquote changed to Madhurya Ras, his inherent Ras, so it is possible. And it was by the grace of Radharani. Radharani lost her ankle belt and Shyamananda found it and gave it to her. That same Radharani gave the Shamananda Vigraha to Shamananda. So then Gurudev is explaining the same thing. If someone associates with Krishna's devotees in a general way, but his actual Svarup is that of a Ram Bhakta, then when he reaches a point of progression in his service mood towards Krishna, Krishna will arrange that he will go to Ayodhya and get Ram Nam. The Gopal mantra is one, and by that Gopal mantra, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, or Madhurya will develop in accordance with one's Svarup. Worship of Ram is in the category of Dasya Ras. It isn't that by chanting the Gopal mantra, the Ram Bhakta will automatically get realization of Ram. Rather, by chanting the Gopal mantra, at the appropriate time in the development of that chanting, Krishna will arrange everything for him, such as sending him to Ayodhya and so on. So that's Srila Gurudev's discussion on Vilapas Manjari. Are there any other questions? Is this getting more clear?
Yeah.
Or was it already clear to you?
Go on, one question, Joanne. Wanting to know what we are doing in eternal time. What is the constitutional the constitutional form, and what is it? What are we doing?
We have no experience of that, and it's beyond our limited consciousness to contemplate, but pure devotees see it. It means that suppose my Svarup is Tat Tat Bhava Ichchatmika. I'm the servant of Radharani as a maidservant. So that's what I would be doing in eternal time. But I have no experience or realization of that. Well, it's like it's waiting. But it's inconceivable to us now how that can possibly be. Want to hear something else inconceivable?
Sure.
I'm quoting one conversation in the same chapter of Two Time Factors. It's a conversation that I had with Gurudev. What were we doing? This is me. What were we doing before we came to this world? Before we chose to come here to the world of Maya? We were not in eternal time. Since a time immemorial, incalculable, we've been in abject absence of awareness. So Gurudev said, we were within Karana Dakshai Vishnu. Then I asked, is that where we were created originally? And Gurudev said, the Jiva is eternal. Jiva has not been created. So then I asked, were we eternally in the heart of Karana Dakshai Vishnu? So then Gurudev said, we were not in the heart, but it is like that. It has been told in this way in order to help us gradually understand. Because we are conditioned souls, we are not of the capacity to understand the real thing. You know all that, right? In the Jiva Dharma, that Baladev creates the jivas in the Goloka Vrindavan, and Mula Sankarshan creates all the jivas serving Krishna in Mathura and Dwarka, and Baladev as Mahasankarshan creates all the jivas serving Krishna in Vaikuntha, and then Baladev as Mahavishnu manifests the Tatastha jivas who have the choice to go up or down. You know that one, right?
Yeah.
You all know that. So it turns out that that's a provisional statement. It means it's just for now, as Gurudev is explaining here. So I'm asking, were we eternally in, if we weren't created, were we eternally in Karana Dakshai Vishnu? He said, no, it's just said that way to help us gradually understand, because as conditioned souls, we are not of the capacity to understand the real thing. Those who are not conditioned souls, Gurudev is still answering me. who are not only liberated souls, but who are associates of Krishna and Radhika in Vrindavan, like Rupa Manjari, who has come to this world in the form of Rupa Goswami, and Rati or Tulsi Manjari, who has come in the form of Raghunath Das Goswami. They want to tell us something, but they are liberated souls, and we are conditioned souls, so we can't understand their words. The words we hear are of this mundane world. The souls of Vaikuntha are also always liberated. They have come from Baladev in the form of his expansion, Mahasankrishan of Vaikuntha. It is told that they were manifested by Mahasankrishan, but you will not understand that they were always present in Vaikuntha. Actually, they have not come from Baladev or Sankrishan. The Jivas who are from Braj have never come from Baladev. They're also eternal. But to make you understand, I will have to explain it in this way. The Tatastha Shakti Jivas, those coming from Karanadakshay Vishnu, are also eternal. So then I asked again, so what were we doing before we decided to come to the material world? Did we have any activity? So Gurudev replied, it has been told, but really you are eternal. You are saying that I am a conditioned soul, but when Narada will come and see you, he will see that you are serving Radha and Krishna eternally. I cannot make you understand this truth. If Narada will come to Kamsa, he will see that Kamsa is so fortunate to serve Krishna. Without the presence of Kamsa, there would be no need for Krishna to go to Gokul, where he later on met and engaged in loving pastimes with the gopis. So right now you can understand only what has been given in Jiva Dharma and Bhagavatam, Bas, only that. Now you are burning in this home. We have to do something to put out the fire and then proceed. We will then be able to judge why the fire came so that in the future it will not return. In the meantime, we're burning. So we should chant, serve our spiritual master, Vaishnavas and Shastra. So doing so accordingly, we will improve ourselves so that one day we will serve Krishna and everything will be realized. I'm just going to end by reading the analogy that Gurudev gives from his Guru Maharaj about the Swati Nakshatra. Do you know that one? And the Garochana and the pearl and the oyster shell? We have heard that in the Swati Nakshatra, the stellar constellation of Swati, rain comes. If that rainwater falls on a banana tree, it automatically produces camphor. So here we are with potential.
Yes, right.
Okay? If it falls on the head of an elephant, it produces Gaja Mukta, an elephant pearl. If it falls on the hoof of a cow, Garochana, which is a very costly yellow pigment, that's produced. When it falls on an oyster shell, it produces a pearl, which is also very valuable, even more valuable than a Kohinoor diamond. And it falls on a snake's hood, a precious jewel is produced. Someone has an idea that by association, you can come to Vatsalya Ras, Shanta Ras, Sakya Ras, Madhurya Ras, and that your Swarup can be changed. But you should have strong faith that it cannot be changed. There is Ras in your constitutional form, either Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, or Madhurya. There must be something in one of them, but now it is covered by Maya. I have come to help you to remove that Maya.